Hey everybody, I am Roddia Paul.
And I am Shola Cargill. Welcome.
I want to thank everyone who is returning PGCPS Family for tuning in for this week's Rich and Wellness workshops. And if you're new, we want to thank you for stopping on by and we hope you'll join the family.
Yes, we really appreciate you all tuning in and just being here with us for this series. I mean, we're closing down the year and it has been an exciting journey and we are just grateful to continue on in you all's journey of wellness and just contributing in ways that you may have never thought. So we really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all. And, we're just going to kind of get into some closing things to top off our mindfulness playlist series. So today we're going to be talking about non-judgment. Last week we spoke a lot about, what was it last week again, Rodia?
Last week when we were speaking, we kind of just continued talking about first, of course, being present and using that to go ahead and be intentional and do things with purpose.
Exactly. And so you'll see here how non-judgment ties right into that. And of course, by the end of this, we are, hopeful that you'll be able to really take some pieces with you and keep working on that list that you've been creating. If this is your first time here, we'll talk about the list in a little bit too. Alrighty. So just to kind of start us off, judgment. When we think about judgment, there's usually a lot of connotations that go along with it. Some positive, some negative. Let's just say that there's a lot that goes with it depending on who's talking about it and from which perspective they're speaking. And ultimately, judgment serves a purpose, and that's why everyone uses it in different ways. And judgment can help us make sense of the world. It can help us categorize different ideas. It can help us categorize different behaviors. It can categorize different experiences that we have. And in that organization process, again, it helps us create that worldview. It allows us to assess what we're looking at, how we're perceiving it, how we're taking it in, how we're paying attention. And it also allows us to make meaning from those experiences that we have, from those ideas that come up. And again, depending on which perspective you're coming from in terms of using the judgment, it can really, help create and shape your worldview. So, I mean, ultimately, Rodia, can you say more like about why that's even important?
So it's really important. And I love that last part you just said about it helps us to make meaning of the world around us. I think it's really important to frame judgment in that aspect because oftentimes when you hear someone talking about judgment, they say it in a way that's kind of bad, right? We label it as bad. Oh, she's judgy. Oh, he's judgy. Oh, I feel judged. Oh, that's a judgment of this. That's a judgment of that. It's really framed as in judging anything is bad, right? I think it's important to take away, good or bad, because it's neither, and rather just view it as it's something that as human beings, our brains are computed to do. Like that is how we understand the things around us, right? And the basis of what we learn and experience, most of it is based off judgments of things and us forming our own opinions of them. And then, like you said, we categorize, we organize. That's really how we understand our experiences, other people. And I think that's really important to being present. I think it's really important to adding purpose. It's really important to being objective, kind of all the things we've been talking about, being compassionate, right? Understanding that just because you judge something a certain way doesn't mean the judgment you had is true. It's just the way that your brain is trying to understand what you're experiencing, what you're viewing. And, that's okay. So like one thing I hope we're able to do today, if nothing else, is to sort of take away that negative connotation of judgment, right? Because it's not good, it's not bad, it's just there, it is. And it's more about being present with what your judgment is and unpacking that rather than trying to label it. So can you tell us more about why we should be aware of our judgment in that way, Shola?
Absolutely. I mean, just again, like you said, being intentional and being present, how that contributes to our understanding of ourselves and how our awareness of those different elements can then lead into this creation, right? So becoming aware of the judgment, it allows you to be flexible in how you perceive things. So just for example, if I'm looking at this water bottle, we always have water, but this water bottle, I look at it and I say, oh, this is a terrible label. I judge the label, I say it's terrible. That now shapes how I perceive the water in the water bottle. But if I'm also now aware, oh, wait a minute, I just made a judgment that, that kind of says something about the water, but is that all the water is? I mean, what about how they do the advertisement? Can I maybe change the way I'm perceiving so that I can now look at what I'm dealing with in a different way and I can really experience everything in a more full and present manner? And so ultimately, what that does, it allows us to be more accepting of our realities too. Being able to have that flexibility in how we perceive things allows us to take a more worldview approach. And if one side of it may not be desirable and we may not like it, we can look at another side and maybe see something that is more favorable to us. And so creating that balance, creating that openness, that acceptance to just your experiences in life and other people's experiences can help you be more fulfilled ultimately. And I mean, there are, of course, ways that judgment can be, used and abused or overused. But ultimately, there is importance and there is value in trying to find that balance. Now, Roddia, can you say a little bit about how it can be overused?
Yes, so that's really important, right? So I think we've kind of been talking about how judgment serves us. It's essential to us as beings to be able to judge things and make sense of things. But also because we live in a world of duality, right? The same way that something can serve us, too much of anything is never good, right? And it can be overused. And I think it's important to think about the fact that we can become almost controlled by our judgments, right? Because we become conditioned to believe that the way we judge something or what we gather from a judgment is a fact. So kind of like that example that you just gave, really small, right? But it can be applied to so many things. If we judge something and we decide that the way we choose to label it is all that there is to that thing, we will never see it any other way. We won't give it any other chance. And we will almost have distorted thoughts of certain things, places, experiences, people, because we choose to hold our judgments as fact. And oftentimes things we judge are not right. But we're not going to talk about that today. That's a whole different subject. But, understanding that just because you judge something a certain way doesn't mean that the way that you're perceiving it is all there is to it, or that it is even a fact or the truth, right? So stepping outside of yourself and saying, okay, I have this judgment. Why? And then allowing yourself to have the experience of exploring that thing further past what you might have judged it to be is a way to make sure you're not allowing your brain's natural ability of judgment to be overused, right? Because your brain is just trying to help you understand what's going on, right? But I think the beautiful thing about being human is we have free will and we have the ability to choose to go further past that, right? And that really boils down to the fact of knowing that these judgments are automatic processes that our brain does, right? And it can really lead us to focusing on, the thing itself and reacting to it because we have a judgment. Like Shola's like, that bottle, I don't like the wrapper. Now I'm saying I'm just not going to drink the water, right? And we lose the chance to be a part of something because we're so focused on what we should do in reaction to how we judge something, right? So rather than trying to judge that wrapper and say, okay, I saw the wrapper looks a little janky, I'm not quite sure how the water is going to taste, instead of stopping there and just say, I'm just not going to drink the water, I don't want to do. If we see the wrapper and say, okay, it's a little janky, but I'm a little janky sometimes too, I'm going to still give the water a chance and be and feel and drink that water and realize, wow, this water is actually really good. I needed this water in my life today, and I think we do that with a lot of different things, right? We're so busy of how we judge something and we choose to not do something as a result of that judgment, and we miss the chance to grow, to experience. And that's kind of what we've been talking about, like that whole feeling of being present, being mindful, being intentional, doing things with purpose. Like all of it comes full circle, y'all. And I'm glad I said that, because I want Shola to talk to you guys about purpose itself. Like, why is that relevant to what we're talking about? What's the purpose of even trying to be non-judgmental?
Yeah. Wow, Roddia. Before I even get into that, I mean, because everything that you said just kind of captured that so beautifully in a nutshell. Honestly, if we're able to see things from a different perspective and just be and experience and feel and just take the full amount of whatever it is that's coming in, then we can maximize our life experiences, right? And that's the whole purpose of the series that we're doing, why we're on this wellness journey. We want to maximize our life experiences and be satisfied ultimately with how we're living our lives. And that satisfaction, again, comes from accepting. It comes from living a non-judgmental life where you're aware of the judgments and you're able to shift perspectives. That's what it means to be non-judgmental. Not that you never judge, but you're able to be aware of those judgments and you take a certain perspective and a certain route with that awareness. And so it allows you to be more intentional with how you make choices. As you said, Roddia, being able to have free will, that allows us to create this life. And so if we're able to be aware of our judgments, be aware of how we judge ourselves and how we judge other people, we can then open up and try something different. And we can be intentional about that change. And ultimately, releasing ourselves from that judgment and releasing others from that judgment allows us to have more fulfilling relationships, again, with self and with others. It allows us to have a better bond with our neighbor, with our community, with the earth. It allows us to take in all of the things that happen and just recognize that these are life lessons that come with the purpose of maximizing your life and helping you get to that point of being fully satisfied. So we, of course, have an activity, something for you all to take home, as we usually do. It's really important that you all are getting into these activities, because they're ultimately for you. And as we always say, one part of the activity that we suggest may not fit, but here's an example, here's an idea, and tailor it to you. This is ultimately your plan. So take the reins away.
I want to start by saying, teachers, faculty, staff, students, families that are watching, we love y'all and we know it is winter break and y'all like, we don't need no homework. But listen, as we always say, the homework that you do for yourself is the most important, the most rewarding and valuable work you will ever do. So we encourage you to carry this with you. Of course, there will be no wellness workshops during the break. So we encourage you to keep doing the activities that we've been sharing, all the way back from the first one, as things that can guide you over that week where we won't be sharing an activity and we won't meet in our space with you all. This homework is very simple, but powerful. We always talk about journaling, making lists, and that's kind of course, what this is. It's really just one, to release that stigma, right? So judging does not make you bad, does not make the thought bad. Honestly, the judgments that we have, most of them are embedded in things we've been conditioned to believe. So it's only natural for us to have these thoughts when we're given certain stimuli, right? But it's not about the judgment itself. It's about the way you allow yourself to experience it and what you allow yourself to be as a result of that, right? So we kind of want to challenge you all to do that. So one, journal, over the next week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever your break is, to journal, like when you feel yourself experiencing a judgment, to really take time. Of course, if you're busy out and you can't, do that, that's fine. But let's say you're home and you have a thought, right? Or maybe you have a thought while you're out, write it down and come back to it later, right? And write about that, reflect on it. ask yourself, where is this judgment coming from? Have I been conditioned to think this way? What other experiences cause me to believe that this judgment is true? Unpack that for yourself and really try to understand why you're thinking or feeling the way you're feeling. And really just practice paying attention to that when you have that feeling. And then the last thing that's really important, and Shola talks about this a lot, is just having compassion for yourself, right? I think it's, even though we've been saying judgments aren't good or bad, we've been told that being judgy is bad for so long that you're probably still going to feel like I'm wrong for feeling that way or thinking that. But be compassionate and kind with yourself to know that this is something that is normal. It's something that we all do. We judge ourselves, we judge others, we judge experiences, values, ways of thinking. It is how we function and understand and make meaning of things. So give yourself that compassion to say, you know what? This is normal. I'm not going to focus on the fact that I had the thought, but I'm going to focus on what that thought may mean to me and what I can do and be because of it, right? So just know when you have a thought and you're kind of like, wow, that was kind of messed up of me, think, this means I'm processing something. What am I processing and why? And that's kind of what the activity is, right? And it's something that you can do always. It doesn't have to, be a one and done. Carry it with you. And I think it can really help you to shift your thinking on, just being judgmental. Understand that it's a part of us, but it doesn't have to control us, right? And we can still be and experience, be present, be purposeful despite that thing. And I hope that is, something that we've left with you during this mindful series. Of course, this is the last one. I can't believe it. We're going to meet again here in this same spot, and it's going to be a brand new year. So Shola, can you tell them what they can expect, what we have coming in the new year and all that good stuff?
Yes. So 2021 is coming, and we are going to be talking about productivity. So January 6th, we're going to meet back here again on Wednesdays. Tune in. In the meantime, while you all have this time to rest and to break, again, review the notes that we did, review our self-care series, review our, review our mindfulness series, and come up with a New Year's self-care plan, or just a you care plan, or whatever kind of plan you want to come up with. Make it your own. And again, be intentional about what you're putting on that list, what you're putting into that plan, and how you choose to just be. And also, we may have another video coming out talking about some challenging things that a lot of us experience when it gets cold, in the seasons changing and the holidays passing. There can be a lot of different shifts going on. And so we may have a little surprise for you all if you tune into the channel between now and the break. But until then, we will see you all January 6th. And we're so grateful for you to continue supporting us. And we're so grateful that you keep putting yourself first.